All right, guys, let's get rolling. And I want to thank everyone for getting on relatively short notice for What's the Right Shot, episode number 246. Obviously, a live version of What's the Right Shot today. And a big shout out, big thanks to Phil Landauer for helping out today. And look, this guy's been playing senior tennis for decades. I like to embarrass him and tell him that he's one of my heroes in this thing. I've known the guy for a long time and just love his style of play. And we've got a love for sports in terms of baseball and other stuff like that. And then some common family friends from way back in the day in terms of Ponca City, Oklahoma. So Phil, man, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Brent. I enjoy doing these things with you. And I've got my IT person here, my wife, Mikey, helping me out. So I think I'm good to go.
Good deal. Good deal. What's the current gold ball count, singles and doubles combined?
I've got 41 gold balls, 10 singles and 31 doubles.
Yeah, it's a big number.
And about 30 silver, I think.
That's a big number, 41. And today's thing that we're to talk about in this point is, and you and I talked, Phil, about a half hour ago about some of the elements of what we're going to see today. But I think a lot of that is one of the reasons that you've been so prolific in especially in doubles, in your 31 gold balls and doubles, is one thing that we're going to talk about today. So guys, thanks for hanging out with us. And you know what I'm going to do, Phil? I'm going to start this session by first of all asking you to kind of give us a little. Let's do a 60-second promo on what you and Mikey and Mark Vines are doing down in Naples, Florida, with the set tennis camps.
Well, thank you, Brent. Mikey and Mark Vines and I, about 3 years ago, kind of started doing these senior excellence tennis camps for senior tennis players, aspiring players that the three of us, we might play somebody at a tournament, and after the match, we'd sit and have a Coke with them, and they'd say, "God, I'm a senior player, I'm starting to retire, and I want to get better at tennis. Do you have any suggestions on how we do it?" And they would always say that they're working with a young pro that's 28 years old and great pro, but doesn't necessarily, is not in tune with senior tennis. And so we decided that there was a niche out there for us to work with people from all over the country. You've been kind enough to send several people. And it's just a 3 or 4 thing. I don't want to scare people by making them think it's a boot camp that we're killing anybody down here. We're cognizant of the fact that we're all seniors, and we can't just be 6 hours on the court a day and 85, 90-degree temperatures. We're aware of that, and we take breaks. And but it's really good, and we work on some skills and stroke production if somebody's got a glaring weakness. But a lot of it is how we feel being in the senior tennis circuit and playing, that how the game has changed for us over the years. We might not be getting back for overheads as quick as we did when we were 25, or we may not be able to serve and volley every point. How important the lob is, how important that the short volleys are. And more importantly, Mark is a world champion player, Mikey is a world champion, and people have fun at this camp. We do dinners together. There's a lot of camaraderie, a little trash talking, Brent. I know that surprises you. But the people have a good time, and we're on a little bit of a pause right now. Number one, because of the virus. Nobody's really wanting to travel and do much. And also, Mark Vines, bless his heart, gave a kidney to a friend of his daughter about 2 weeks ago in Dallas.
That's right. So
he's kind of laid up for about a month, and Mikey just had elbow surgery. So we probably will not, based on what life is a month or 2 months from now, we probably won't be doing camps again until probably in September. Hopefully this fall we can get going with some of them. And they're for all levels. We try to get people around the same level. But generally the guys are anywhere from 50 to 80. And there's a lot of match play. There's drills. And we try to give them something to take home that they can take back to their own club and do some practice with their group of guys they work out with.
So what's the best, is the email Mikey at settenniscamps@gmail.com, or what's the
Well,
email?
yeah, that's right. It's setcamps@gmail.com.
And Mikey,
And probably put it in care of Mikey.
Mikey at setcamps@gmail.com.
Yes, that's right.
Mikey at, no, it can't be.
No, it's just setcamps@gmail.com.
Got it. Okay. There it is. I just put it out there.
But thank you for letting me give a little spiel there. And
well, they're great camps.
It's an opportunity for senior players to work with senior players, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a great idea, and super valuable. So let's kind of go through this point.
Okay.
Phil?
First, let me say that all four of these guys, I've played all of you guys, and four great people, four great doubles players, different styles. You know, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is from a couple of years ago, probably more than that, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was the men's national 65 hard courts racket club of Irvine, Southern California. And yours truly with the serve, my partner's Chris Morgan from Mill Valley, California, Paul Wolf with a return of serve, and Paul's partner, Len Wofford. And these two guys, look, Wolf and Wofford, arguably, if not the best doubles team in the world, you know, year in and year out in their age group, certainly one of the best.
They're very good.
So I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop it right about here. And typically what we do, Phil, is, and this is where I kind of took the picture, and I'm going to ask you guys, if you were me in this situation, just go ahead and find the chat box and kind of type in what shot you would play. But if you're me in this situation, obviously stretched out into the alley, a good return by Paul, what shot would you play? I'm going to wait a couple minutes before if no one's got any response, that's fine. And we'll kind of keep the video going. But any thoughts, guys, in terms of where you might play this half volley? Obviously it's a serve and volley. You're getting pulled out wide.
Well, Paul said you've hit a good serve there, and Paul is able to move to his left very well and hit a forehand, but he has that ability to kind of pull that ball back cross court low. So I think you hit an excellent serve.
So, and that's kind of my strategy lots of times with serve and volley, Phil, is I'm trying to go at the body.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go into the body, and it's deep enough that it does force him out of the way. But he does a good job, right? He creates space with the feet, and he can actually get a nice little swing on it. So
yeah, he likes that little short angle return cross court.
I mean, if you serve him out wide, you better be looking cross court to cover. So
yeah,
we've got Eric saying, we've got Eric going cross court short. Major Dan with the cross court for sure, either deep or short angle. The short angle is probably easier. So short angle, meaning maybe where the shadow is of here, if that's what you guys are saying, short and angle, cross court, back to the deuce court, Ohio Jack, good. Short cross court. Cross court at short angle to take Paul out wide and bring him in, make Paul move. With your skill set, have volley drop shot that lands right in front of Chris. Okay. Back to the returner deep if possible, but low enough to keep the net guy from tagging it. So here's what I would say, guys, is that first of all, everyone agrees that going up the line with a lefty and getting pulled out, that if I guess wrong, I mean, I've got to hope that Len's thinking about poaching. But if he's not, even from right here, he's got this he's got this thing covered, right, Phil, with the forehand volley?
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out. With Lenny is a lefty, and so for you to go down that alley, it's feeding right into his forehand volley, and that opens the middle up for him to just stick that volley down the middle, and you got a pretty wide opening there.
Yeah, and there's no way that Chris is going to cover it, and there's no way I'm going to cover it. So the
Now,
only time
I would have thought that maybe Lenny, when Paul's ball got past Chris, that he may have stepped forward a step or two. You could make a case, and you can do it. I don't know if this is something that we would teach, because we usually don't teach lobbing from up that close. But if Lenny moves forward, you could have flipped a lob a little bit over his head to make Paul switch over and hit a backhand. But that's a very delicate shot to
tough
handle.
shot. It's
Yeah.
a tough shot. And so the only reason, again, just to kind of, finalize this thing, the only reason I would right here go up the line is not because I'm taking a peek at Lenny, is only because I'm guessing. I'm anticipating that for whatever reason, how this match has developed to this specific point, he might be looking to move. That would be the only thing. It would just be a pure guess. Now, look, you guys, if you're talking about going short angle cross court over here where the shadow is with a light standard, from this position, I'm not going to hit a winner, right? This is not a winner opportunity. And so if I go too far out here wide, now what happens is I think Paul's going to be able to get to it. And Chris is going to have to cover. He's going to have to cover this alley. I'm going to have to somehow scoot back because I've got most of the court to cover now, because if that's the case, Chris is covering alley or looking for alley. The middle is going to be wide open. And then I'm feeding into Paul's what he's known for, which is that short angle cross court in here.
I agree.
So for me, look, all I'm thinking about is let's keep it away from Len. And I probably hit a little bit better shot than I intended. I am trying to go cross court, but it ends up short, right?
But I like that. It's not out. You're not giving him a great angle with his forehand, which he likes. You're keeping it short, which, not saying he can't get to it and flip a lob over your head, but it's very hard to get that lob up over two players like you and Chris Morgan, that they don't hit an overhead down your throat and drop it down in the court. So I like that play. You kind of took the angle away. You dropped it short. I thought you had a great shot there.
Okay. All right. And let's go back and talk a little bit about half volley technique. So my thought here is that when I'm coming into this, I know right now this is I'm not putting the brakes on to where it's going to bounce short and it can get up to where now I can actually kind of play an approach shot. But it's also short enough that I'm not going to play a lunging volley just to be able to play serve and volley. I'm going to play a half volley off this thing, and I know it's really hard to see in the video, but I want guys to know that when we prep the racket for the half volley, you want to put it pretty much right behind where you think the ball is going to bounce. So that and I see this too often, Phil, and I know that you do too, where guys will take a half volley and they'll kind of raise the racket up so they have to come down into it.
Right.
And what happens here is you can't really borrow any of the pace off the bounce, which can kind of get put right into your racket. And so to use that, and when you come down and kind of hack at the last second, it's really got a high possibility that it's going to kind of float. And so guys, technique wise on your half volley, just prep the racket down low behind where you think it's going to bounce and kind of just nudge it, right? Just let it get absorbed in there. Don't do too much. And
catch it as close to the bounce and keep the racket below the ball. And
that's right.
Keep your head and body as quiet as you can.
Okay.
McEnroe was the only player I know that could hit that half volley and kind of jump off the ground and raise his head, and he was fantastic. But I don't think that's what we would teach.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be like a shortstop taking the ball in a short hop. You got to stay down
and just kind of absorb it.
And absorb it, yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, so Paul's coming in, short ball. He's got choices. Guys, what shot would you play if you're Paul? Right here. Let's go ahead and load up the chat. Let me know.
Can I make one point before they put what they're going to ask? Is that, and you and I have talked about this on other occasions, that you and I know, were brought up, we were serving volleyers, first, second serve, and we still are. But there are now a lot of senior players, and you and I are two of them, that occasionally a guy's putting balls at your feet and you're trying to get in and hit it in the air and you're hitting up and the net guy is cutting across and just burning. There are times it's better to take that first ball on the bounce, play it back, and work your way in. You know, you get a better chance of not automatically being right off the bat in a defensive position. So I prefer, if you got a good serve and you're getting balls above the net and you can play that ball deep and get control of it. But if you can, if somebody's killing you with little dumps at your feet, there's nothing wrong in senior tennis occasionally taking that ball on the bounce, playing it back, and working your way in. So
yeah, no, that's a great point. You don't have to play serve and volley. It's not literally that has to be in that sequence. And I think too often players make that mistake. And one of the things Tom Stowe taught me is, and I asked him, well, you know, is it a volley or a half volley? And he says, well, it's whatever one you can play and be on balance. And if that means that you could play a volley,
that's good, yeah.
I mean, you might be able to play a volley, sure, but you're reaching so far off balance. So look, I'm asking guys, you know, what shot you would play now if you're Paul. And I think that everyone's got the right idea, right? You know, Major Dan is going either deep towards your backhand side, and let's just forget the pop a little lob over your partner, which is a possibility. But Eric's going at your feet, my feet on the backhand side, meaning sort of more into this area here, gives him more court to work with. You know, Peter's saying, I think Paul should try to go back at your feet, maybe your backhand side. Saying the same thing. Paul almost, and then Dr. Pratt saying Paul almost has to hit it back low to you and come in. So, yeah, I mean, that's the obvious play in this situation, right? So besides us knowing it, who else do you think is anticipating that that's the shot that Paul's going to play? Based on what we've already been through, right? I mean, we've already been through this half volley of mine right here. It's short. I would say all four of us are thinking that that's the right shot for Paul to play. And so.
And Chris knows that.
And Chris Morgan knows that. And guess what? Guess what? He is going to be on the move. He's totally committed. He's totally stretched out, but he's committed. Right?
Yeah.
And so here's something that I think a lot of players ask me is they want, well, what's the formula to poach? And the formula to poach has less to do with, well, is this player not looking at me? Is this player looking down at the ball? And in this case, the formula is just exactly what all you guys just said. Paul is most likely, not 100% guaranteed, because he could lob, he could flip a little thing up here, up the line. But in this situation, Chris knows that Paul is most likely going to go cross court.
It's short and low. He has to hit up on the ball, and there's a good chance that Chris can make a move and pop that down the middle. Now, you and I talked about this another occasion. That doesn't mean that Paul couldn't come up and occasionally burn Chris and slide a ball behind him. It's a little lower percentage, high. But even if he does that occasionally, I think it's worthwhile to note that even if you lose the point when you poach by Chris, it sets the tone for later on. And Paul is going to always know that he's got to be looking out for you or for Chris, who's up to it, because you guys are moving and being active. And I know sometimes I get to where I'm a little passive up there. And I think when I'm playing well, I'm moving and I'm taking some chances. I don't win every point, but I'm letting these people know that they're not going to have, 3/5 of the court to hit into.
Yeah, and what's to say, we don't know, but what's to say that either in this service game, and let's say this is deuce or whatever, so this game's gone on for a few points. What's to say, Phil, that there wasn't a similar situation to this where maybe Paul went up the line and burned Chris, and now 2 points later we're into the same thing. Well, what's Chris thinking? Well, Chris is thinking, I don't think he's going to do that twice in a row. And Paul might be thinking, well, Chris won't move because I just burned him. So he's going to be stationary. And so whatever the situation is, Chris has a hunch that this is going cross court. And look, I just want to say he is stretched out, man.
Yeah.
And yet he's fully 100% committed. And if that means reaching, stretching, at the last second, giving a little wrist snap as he does, that's all it needs.
But I like what you said. Once he decided, he was 100% committed. And another thing that you and I talked earlier on is that there's no 100% right answer on this. You know, that we can't tell you that every time you're going to make the right move, and you're going to get burned a few times. But if you're doing that enough, this team down here they're liable to take their eye off the ball because they're kind of worried about what you're doing. They may give you some free points from that, but I think the good doubles teams are always doing different things to keep the opponents uneasy.
Well, look, if you're playing, Chris and I are playing, as again, let's say in the beginning, arguably, certainly the best team in the country in their age group year in and year out, and sometimes the best team in the world. If you are not disrupting them with movement like Chris shows here, you got no chance.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no chance.
Right. So, I like to throw some Australian formations in. I like to do some signal poaching, but also just if you get the right shot like Chris did there, there's been no signal. And then he just got the opportunity. He felt it was low, short. He was going to take a chance and worked out well, but he made that commitment.
Yeah. So someone just asked who won the match. Well, look, we got beat 3-4. But then we went back and, at the end of the day, I think this was the quarters into the tournament, we actually gave them the best match, at least, game score wise.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that if you guys don't, against the better teams, move a lot, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in a lot of trouble.
There is an art to timing the move. I've noticed in the last few years, more and more of the senior players are doing the old, what we thought was the worst thing in the world, the one up, one back formation, even off the serve. And, it hasn't been easy for me to learn that move, when to move over and help my partner who's staying back and hitting great ground strokes. There's a real gift of timing on that. And you are going to get burned a few times, but if you leave way too early, you are going to get burned more than normal. And I used to play with a guy, and his big deal was that when the opponent kind of dropped their head at contact, that's when he made his move. Once they're watching the ball, as they drop the head a little bit to hit, that's when he made his move, and that works pretty well for me.
Yeah. I want everyone to look at something else here that Chris does. So I want you to look at the little tiny fake poach that he throws in here. So if you focus on Chris, and he'll take one little jab step right there. He just shows a little something to kind of disrupt the landscape.
Right.
Just a hair. But what I love about this the most, it instantly gets Chris into the point. It gets him activated rather than just standing here, right? Rather than just standing here and reacting, he actually gives a little something, comes back, and now he's activated. His feet are activated. And that's a little subtle thing, but.
Have you noticed the Bryan brothers do that a little bit? They obviously are 6'4" and moving back great, better than we are at our age. But they'll start back a step or two, and once that ball gets by them, they're moving forward just to get their movement in action.
Right. Guys, let me
a little movement, yeah.
Let's get some comments going. Any more questions? Any more comments about this point? The half volley, the return to serve from Paul. Chris's little fake poach up here to start, and then his move. Anything else on your mind at this point brings up that that you want an answer to. And if not, that's fine. We can let, boy, that's
So
a nasty return.
if this pattern were happening a lot,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the listeners, what might be a shot that either on that shot or on an earlier shot off the return that you could use?
Well, look, if I'm constantly getting into this position off of Paul's forehand return,
Yeah.
We're probably going I formation.
Okay.
You know, I'm probably going to put Chris right here, straddle it.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve from here. And I know what Chris will do.
I like that a lot. I like that.
Chris will do a quick little jab step fake in here, and then he'll come back, inviting Paul to go with that forehand.
I was saying maybe off the serve and you jam Paul and he's moving to his left. He's skilled enough. He can take that lob over Chris's head if you're in just a regular, normal alignment. And then that has you cross over, hitting a backhand, and Paul has a little more time to get in behind it. That's one way to nullify a guy that's closing in real tight on that. One of your listeners talked about how well he moved in at a diagonal towards the net.
That's right.
Which means he's really moving forward. But once in a while, you got to flip that lob over the net person's head and then get into the net yourself. And that kind of takes him out of that same play all the time. But I like your idea of the Aussie or Australian or the formation.
Well, I like the I formation better, because the I formation, you know, the server's partner can actually throw a fake that is effective. If I'm serving from close to the center, and I got Chris all the way over here in the Aussie.
Yeah.
Obviously, especially at this age, there's no fake he can do that's going to make Paul think, well, gosh, maybe he's crossing.
That's a good point.
I love the I formation here. And guys, look at Chris's move. I mean, someone else mentioned that Chris moves, doesn't go totally parallel. Phil, you just mentioned that. He does take a little bit of an angle towards the net, which gets him to this ball sooner. He's already stretched out. If he goes horizontal to the net, I'm not sure he gets to this.
Brent, the problem with the I formation is at our age, getting down low enough that you don't get hit in the back of the head. It's kind of tough getting up and making your break.
Well, I don't think the problem's getting down. It's just getting back up, Phil.
Getting back up, yeah.
Okay, good guys. All right, well, listen, if you have any more questions, any more comments, let us know right now. If not, I'm going to kind of sign us off here. Phil, great stuff today, man. As always, love picking your brain on this stuff. So good. And so guys, if you looking for a great senior tennis camp, you go down for a few days. In fact, I just referred some guy, Russ Fox, one of my online students, to you guys.
We talked to him this week, yeah.
And I asked him, I said, are you willing to travel? And he said, sure. I said, well, then fine, let's go to Naples, Florida. So he's going all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast to hang out with you guys this fall.
Again, we'd like to include you sometime and bring you down here to help us do it.
Love to do that.
You're doing a lot of great things, and a lot of our people that we work with are totally followers of you and all of your coaching online. So thank you for spreading the word about it, and thanks for including me today. Enjoyed it.
Guys, that's a typo. setcamps@gmail.com rather than, there we go. That's the one we want right there. All right, guys. Phil, thanks so much, man. Want to get you on a regular basis for sure.
Great. Thank you all.
Guys, any more questions? If they come later today, this weekend, whatever, Brent@webtennis.com. Everyone stay safe out there, and certainly help someone else have a great day. Phil, thanks for your time today, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Brent.